Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's fireside chat. We are super excited to have Molly Mohr here to talk about experimenting with the human design system and invitation to radical self-love. But before we get started with this fireside chat, just want to again quickly share about the Grateful Giraffes. For those of you who are streaming on YouTube or watching the replay on YouTube who aren't giraffes. So the Grateful Giraffes are a vibrant community of over 850 members who value gratitude, wellness, and impact. We're both spiritual and grounded at the same time. We create and co-create a lot of beautiful, meaningful experiences, especially in the LA community. We're also global as well too, so we do different events globally, like the Fireside Chats, and we're also building a community-owned lifestyle brand dedicated to human flourishing. And if you want to find out more about the Grateful Giraffes, you can go to gratefulgiraffes.com. And if you want to watch past Fireside Chats, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Today, we have Mohr here for the fireside chat. And as a human design expert and mentor for 4 years, Molly has been radically committed to experimentation with the system of knowledge, fascinated by the recognition of the uniqueness of each individual's cognitive architecture. She continues to study the science of differentiation, working with individuals and families to empower the healthy navigation of their decision making process. Her work with clients in human design builds upon her background in human services, education, and psychology. And we just are so excited to have you here and welcome, Molly.
Hello. Thank you so much for inviting me to this chat. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, well, we're really excited to have you. It's a conversation I'm super excited about because I've been diving deeper into human design. But before we get there, I would love for you to share a little bit about, your background and how you got to, study human design and doing the work that you do.
sure. I'd love to share. So I came to the system of human design about 4 years ago. Um, it came to me in 2020, um, during a time that had been traveling a lot. I have, like I said in my introduction, I have a background in human services and international affairs. And that education kind of provided me with an opportunity to um, to really study humanity in a lot of different ways and meet a lot of different people in a lot of different places. And I've always had this passion to understand people. So when human design came into my life, this system really sparked this fascination um, in how unique we could see each other. It's a different level of our own of recognizing our uniqueness. So, like I said, about 4 years ago, I started experimenting with the system itself. So, what that means for me is that I got a reading and then I started following something called strategy and authority. And so, strategy and authority is a part of the formula of the system of human design. And the system itself is incredibly complex, very layered, and therefore fascinating. But the process of actually experimenting with the system all comes back to something called strategy and authority. Um, yes, I'll start there. I kind of want to see what questions you might want to ask because it's such a broad system. In which direction do you want to go to?
Awesome. Yes, it's very confusing, like as well too. Like if you don't understand the foundations, and I feel like that's like a good place to start because people throw out like, "Oh, I'm a projector, I'm a generator," without knowing what it is, and they might say like, for example, "I'm a 4/6 planet projector," and people are like, "What the heck is that?" So can you start with like the foundations, and let's start with like the di four different types of or no, not four, but there's more than four than types. Sorry, the foundational types of the system and what the categories are.
Sure. Sure, yeah. And I'd also love to share. So, my design, I'm a 4-6 manifesting generator with sacral authority. So, that's just for context for anyone who's, aware of human design and already um, tuning in. Um, so there are within the system of human design, there are four aura types or four types. Sometimes people will so there's generators, projectors, manifestors, and reflectors. And then sometimes people speak to manifesting generators and generators, and they'll break it into a fifth type. But within the context of aura type, manifesting generators and generators both have an open and enveloping aura. And that's really what human design is. One of the things that human design brings into awareness is that every body has an aura, and the way that those auras function kind of provide the foundation for the way someone understands their reality. So in a certain lens, it's a foundation for our personal psychology and the way that we see the world, and therefore what we can contribute to the world. And that's where it gets into the uniqueness of um, quantum energy. So the system itself, let me back up. I'll come back to the aura types, but let me just say the system, for people who don't know, the system is a synthesis system that takes aspects of ancient wisdoms and combines it with modern sciences. And it's this like, in my personal experience, it's a really beautiful system for this like unification of the a mystical and practical kind of navigation of this quantum reality that we live in. And it gets really into how you uniquely make decisions and how that decision making process that's happening through you might experience it uniquely. And having this education of how your bio vehicle, your water body functions, can help you meet less resistance in your life when you're navigating different decision making. And so all of that comes back to, like, I'm going to keep coming back to strategy and authority. So, and strategy comes from your aura type. So the reason it's called strategy and authority is because it's giving your mind something to experiment with. Part of human design is this recognition. It goes deep into the ways that our consciousness is filtering the experience of life, because we're all unique filters of consciousness. And that's in one lens of the word. The human design body graph is a map of the way that you uniquely filter consciousness. And as individuals continue and begin to experiment with their own process of self-reflection, and then get to communicate and commune with others about that, I see this like beautiful. It's the way that the world can change and grow together through individuals honoring themselves. So that's kind of a stream as to why I love working with the system and working with people who can see change in their life through this process of simplifying their decision making process. Um, do you have a question?
Oh yes, I just wanted to just add interject. It's like
Yeah,
the way that I like to think about it sometimes is like we're all each supercomputers that are like programmed a certain way, and
right.
like how we are programmed is how we need to operate. And um if we aren't able to understand our operating system, then we are not being efficient in our design. So that's the way I like to think about it. If that helps people, it's like we have a certain way that we operate, and if we don't know how we operate, it's kind of like we're going through life without a user manual.
Beautifully put. Exactly. Um, So back to the aura types. So generators have open and enveloping auras. And these specific words I'm using because these are the keynote terms for the system of human design. So they don't like there's not always an exact correlation of like the words and what you think the words mean based on the life that you've lived up into this moment. Like I like to think about human design in the way that it's a language. It's a language of the science of differentiation. So kind of similar to chemistry has a specific language that people choose to study this, like the language of science, in order to communicate with other scientists. Well, human design has this like similar thread in which it's a specific language so that we can speak to the energetic experiences that we're having in communion with each other, but also having different experiences of this interconnected experience. So keynotes for the generator is open and enveloping. For the projector, it's focused and penetrating. So that your aura is focused and penetrating. And then the manifester, the keynotes are closed and repelling because their auras are moving life force energy as they're moving through their life. And then reflectors are the keynotes are, it's like a Teflon aura. So actually, the keynotes are escaping me specifically because that's not the exact keynote, but the description of their aura is their ability to reflect um, the kind of like general aura of the environment around them. I think that was the question that you asked, Winley. Is there any other question?
No, it's great. It's like it's important to understand, as like a projector, sometimes people find me intense and it's because of my penetrative aura. So like I have to understand that I can't go hard into somebody because I'll feel like 10 times harder than like somebody else like a generator or somebody else saying the same thing that I am and people are like, "Oh, you're so intense."
Right. And that's literally the foundation of your gift. And like what you bring to the world is your ability to see what others can't see. And that is why the projector aura is like the projector strategy, that what they call it is wait for the invitation, is just because it's wait for that moment where it's right timing to share the depth at which you can see.
Exactly, exactly. Morel has a quick question. What's the difference between projector and reflector, if you can share that with everybody?
Yeah. So projectors, their auras are focused and penetrating. And so they thrive in one-on-one experiences because your aura on a mechanical level, this isn't a human like mental level, but on a quantum mechanics level, the projector aura locks into the G center of the generator that is being guided. And so that's why it's really important to wait for the invitation, which is the strategy of the projector, because of the energetic exchange that's being experienced. It's waiting for the invitation is the process of establishing like a deep self-recognition and honoring of yourself. So to go back to the question, the projector aura is really here to help guide generators to satisfaction or efficiency, because projectors can see what generators cannot see. um, and and because we're here playing different roles within this experience. And then reflectors, they're only 1 to 2% of the population, and they have no centers fixed. And so the reflectors like of history have been like a lot of like the oracles and the mystics. I'm sure projectors and generators have also been that, but there's like this consistency of, because the reflectors are very in tune with the program, with the transits, with the energy weather that's happening, because their energy, they wake up in different energy every day because their design doesn't have any fixed energy, so their energy is being influenced by the energy weather that happens. So their strategy, whereas for the projector, it's wait for the invitation. For the reflector, it's all about waiting, giving themselves a lot of time, like a full lunar cycle, to make really big decisions because of the way that their aura works. Does that answer your question? Okay, yeah.
I would love to go deeper into strategy because I think that's a foundational piece, but also sometimes we can get I can get a little pissed off about mine because I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to wait for the invitation. I just want to do it. I just want to go. I just want to like,
Right.
go for it." So there's a lot of times where like I want to go away from my strategy, but I know that it's not that I can't, but I know that it's like better for me when I follow my strategy. But let's talk about the different strategies. I know you talked about projectors and reflectors, but let's talk about generators and manifestors, and then also like dealing with the, I guess, resistance sometimes
Sure.
to following your strategy.
Sure, yeah. Well, I'll start with what you just shared. So, like in response to that, one thing I like to remind people is the strategy, like for projectors, is wait for the invitation to like it's not to wait for the invitation to live your life. Like live your life, do what feels good and is nourishing for your body, but wait for the invitation to share what you see about another that could really make their life a lot easier, because those are the situation, it's like the your ability to see. The way it works is if you can see something, you're the only one, like, and you're there and you're following your strategy and authority, like, and you're just waiting and you see something, you're the only one that can see what you can see. So eventually your aura will do the talking and pull in the person that recognizes you, that sees that you see something, and they feel like they need to know what you see. And then there's an actual recognition, and then you receive the exchange of energy that creates this like um, projector generator dance, which is one of the energetic dynamics that can occur in that. Like a generator is here to be in response, because so the generator strategy is called wait to respond, because anyone who is a generator has fixed sacral energy, and our auras are open and enveloping, and so the generator is literally magnetizing life to them, to their aura. And so in order for, like, the experiment is asking the generator to wait to respond, because otherwise we can be initiating from our minds. Oh, I think I need to go make this happen. Oh, I think I need to go do this system asks you to experiment. Well, what happens when you just wait to see what actually comes to your aura? And over time, you see that the exact things for your life come to your aura. But there tends to be a lot of actually waiting in the process of, like, source orchestrating the timing of things getting to your aura. And so that's how you protect yourself by waiting to respond, because you are in the correct timing for your life. So then you can trust that once something comes to your aura and then you respond to it, and it depends on your authority as to how you make that final decision about that response. But something comes to your aura, and then you have your process of making a decision as to whether, yes, you have energy for that, or no, you don't. Because our mind, for a generator, the generator mind can sit and measure, like, I can do anything, like I have all this creative life force energy, like what I there's so many things that I could be doing based on all these things that I'm thinking about in my mind. But there's only specific things that your unique body is here to actually build and do. And so waiting for the invitation is an experiment to see what happens when you continue to live your life in satisfaction, but don't like succumb to the pressure to go have to make things happen, because we live in a world that's conditioned us to think we have to go out and get it in order for the satisfying, juicy, magnetic life that we want to be here. We have to go out and get it, and then we end up getting distracted in the wrong, like being at the wrong place at the wrong time. Whereas following strategy and authority is all about refining your frequency so that you can be at the right place at the right time to have the right conversation with the right people. And that's what is so potent about this system, and individuals actually quantumly experimenting with it, is then we get to see the magic that happens when we follow our follow the guidance of source within us and the way it shows up in our quantum water computer uniquely. And then we get to have the conversation, and it's because it's with the right person at the right time, we have everything we need for that moment to get to the other side. um, and then, so generator, projector, Reflector, yeah, the reflector is because of the way that their energy can change a lot over the course of time because they don't have any fixed centers, giving themselves a long, like a full lunar cycle to is the strategy to making bigger decisions in their life. But otherwise, just following the intelligence of your body, that's their moment by moment. One on one with the reflector, there'd be some more details that I can bring into focus for them that they could experiment with um, within that kind of like differentiation over time. And then manifester strategy is called is to inform. So because manifestors, their auras are closed and repelling, um, it's the strategy for the manifester is there to help them meet less resistance. So it's literally, the way I see it is it's an invitation to use your voice and really experiment with the power of your voice as a manifester, because they are here to move from inspiration within. Manifestors are about 10% of the population, generators are about 20 or 70%, projectors are about 20%, reflectors, like I said, are about 1 to 2%. Um, and so manifestors are here to actually be moved from inspiration from within, but it's not all the time that that inspiration's coming. They have like a their own decision making process depending on how they're defined as to how to move from that space within them, and informing the others that their energy will impact. That's a really important thing. That's like what informing is about, so that they don't meet resistance. Because what can happen is if they don't use their voice to inform who the people whose their energy is going to impact, um, then they go try and just live their own life, and then this person gets impacted by their energy and then gets angry at that, like amplifies anger back at the manifester who is just trying to do their own thing. But so, like, to simplify it, one of the little experiments that manifestors can kind of play with is like literally when they're leaving their home, just informing, I'm going here or I'm doing this. You can experiment with like, if it actually impacts the person, then you can tell the person directly, but you might also just tell the life force in general, like tell the energy of the space, like I'm moving, right? Because well, there's some history and of the energetic dynamics that have played out in the past. With in the past, historically, manifestors were moving energy and creating frustration in generators, and so there's like a dynamic that can still happen like underneath, uh, like at a subatomic level, that like it's really helpful that kind of gets cleared when just the human who's in this life having this experience just, hi, like, oh, just use your voice to move the energy. You don't have to tell everyone everything. It's just use your voice to move your energy so you can continue to manifest what it is that you're, initiating what it is that you're initiating. Do you have any questions?
No, that was great. I feel like we went really deep in people's strategies and understanding like why that strategy. I think it's important to understand why, because it's not like don't live your life, but it's like, okay, now you understand the importance of following the strategy so that it makes it easier for you basically. So like
Right.
you said, you're in the right place at the right time, or you're invited in, you're not meeting that resistance,
Mm-hmm.
and so you can move through life more fluid. I'd love to really quickly talk about, the authority as well. And sorry, Morale has, before I get there, more
Mm-hmm.
if we can answer a quick question. So the generator strategy is to initiate, but wait for the right time intuitively. No, their strategy is to respond.
Wait to respond.
Wait to respond.
So they wait for something to come to your aura. Once something's in your aura, there's a authority within your body that's saying, yes, I have energy for this, or no, this isn't for me.
Um, We'll get into the other questions. I want to move into, so we'll come back to your question, Morel, because I really want to move into the authorities. Like this is really just basic understanding because we want to get to the meat of it, which is all about experimentation. So I'm going to move the conversation a little bit for this, but um, let's talk a little bit about authority and um, understanding that piece because that's another key piece in your decision making process and how you move about life.
Sure. Yeah. So basically we've started we're building the formula for strategy and authority, right? So strategy is based on the way that your aura is functioning, and then authority is the way that internally your body is telling you what your decision is. And so there's a lot of different types of authorities, and the your type of authority is going to be like deeply influence the way that you are making decisions. So the sacral authority is making like I I'll go over kind of like the general keynotes for the different authorities, but I also like to bring awareness. Like there's a nuance to the and depth to the way that like your inner authority is going to be processed. But the sacral authority is a response in the now. So, for example, a generator who is a sacral authority has a response in the now of like a yes, uh-huh, I have energy for this, or uh-uh, no, I don't. So that is, they can respond to yes or no questions. And that's like a really helpful tool for sacral generators is experimenting with yes or no questions and feeling what their sacral response, that motor response in their gut is. Um, Someone who is an emotional authority, they have truth. There's no truth in the now, is what they say for the solar plexus authority, which means it's speaking to the importance of taking time to make bigger decisions in your life to give yourself this emotional continuity. Because for someone with a fixed solar plexus, their solar plexus is going through, they're riding the waves of life. They have a fixed way of processing emotional energy that moves in a wave process, which means at some points in time they're going to feel really good, or we don't have to label it good, but like really high, and then at other points like really low. And this is an emotional chemistry that they're navigating depending on what waves are defined. And there's complexities to this, but um, giving yourself plenty of time to be able to see how you feel about something when you're feeling high, and then see how you're feeling about that same thing when you're feeling low. And then kind of give yourself time to ride that wave, that up and down, and seeing how that kind of, you can feel one super excited about something or someone in one moment, and then like a little bit later feel like completely different. And so that's why it's really important for emotional authorities to give yourself time to make bigger, make decisions, is so that you can feel that full, the nuance of the ups and the downs. um, Splenic authorities have an instinctual, like it's a very, it's coming from our splenic awareness, which is connected to our immune system. So your vehicle is instinctual and knows how to keep itself safe in the now. So like this tends to be those intuitive hits that people get, and so there's just this like instinctual knowing of something is mostly, it's most, a lot of times I hear from a lot of like splenic authorities how their spleen is telling them like no, like when something's not safe, right? Like when it's a no, you walk into like maybe you walk into a gathering and instinctually immediately the spleen's just like no. Following your strategy and authority, if your spleen just says no, then you leave. Like that place isn't healthy for you, or that experience, maybe that person, that situation isn't healthy for you in that moment. But it is a very in the moment like instinctual authority, and so it's in tuned into the health of that experience for you. um, so then there's ego authority, um, or I guess, yeah, there's a ego projected authority. That is a very rare authority. Skipped right to that one. But that one is all about establishing equal. Anyone with a defined heart is going to have a lot of um, experiences where they get to learn about exchange, energy exchange, and honoring their energy exchange within the energetic dynamic. There's also authorities like the self-projected authority that is all about listening to the frequency of the voice and what you're saying as you're talking out. So someone with the self-projected authority, it's really helpful to have those people in your life that you can talk to, that you can kind of like the process of self-projecting is like allowing that energy yourself to kind of talk out the process and get yourself to the understanding or to the answer that you see for yourself. And sometimes, you got to talk through a journey that like not, it's helpful to have those people you can talk to who don't hold the whole conversation or the whole journey of self-projecting to you. They can see, oh, you got to your answer, and then so it's all about listening to your voice and how it's coming out and how it feels when it comes out, and what you are saying to yourself and others that feels natural to you. um let's see, there's also yeah, there's a couple other authorities, but I feel like I covered mostly what I want to share, unless
Yeah.
someone has a specific authority that they want to ask me about.
There's like so many pieces to human design we can't even cover it. We're just trying to do the highlights because we want to get to like the main part about experimenting. And there's like one last foundational piece, and then we'll go into like how to utilize it in your life and experiment. But I feel like, because it's so vast, there's key pieces that we have to know and understand and learn. Let's talk a little bit about, the numbers. Like I'm a 4-6, you're a 4-6. Like what
Mhm.
what do those mean? And like how do people yeah, what do those mean and how do you utilize that?
Okay. Um, Sorry, I saw a question pop up. So the Sorry, I got distracted by the question that I saw. Could I can speak to the mental authority
Yeah,
really.
let's speak to the mental authority first and then we'll go into the numbers. Yeah.
Yeah. So the mental authority is similar. There's like a similar experience of like having someone to soundboard with can be really helpful in your process. Because like the energies that you feel around different people, like you'll feel very different around different people, and the way that like you can visualize and see things for yourself is going to change depending on kind of like the people that you're soundboarding with. But it's helpful, it's really important that um, when you are trying to make a decision for yourself, that you can soundboard with people who aren't holding like an expectation about that decision for you. Like they're able to hold a neutral space for you to hear your own thought process so that you can get to your own mental clarity in the way that you're designed to do so. Um, and so it can be really helpful to have that external place where you can like hear yourself talking and kind of like see that process unfolding. Um, and so it's within that, like not just having one person. It might be helpful to experiment with having different people that you kind of can find a neutral soundboard with and see if that like how that influences your decision making process and the ways that you see things. So I hope that answered that. And then uh, the the numbers. So one of the things that I love about human design is there's a certain like foundational formula that you kind of start to understand, and then like following your strategy and authority, like you start to like the formula or life is teaching you, and you're getting to see what you're meant to see. One of the pieces of this formula is the lines. So the lines like 1 through 6 come together. So you see them in different levels in the system. Whenever you see a first line, the first line is the keynote of investigator. The second line is keynote of the natural. The third line is the keynote of the martyr. The fourth line is the keynote of the opportunist. The fifth line is the keynote of the heretic. And the sixth line is the keynote of the role model. And so there's a lot of other keynotes that also resonate with those different numbers, but those are the foundational keynotes that start coming together to tell us different information when we hear these numbers, like these random numbers that are together. What does it mean to be a 4-6? So a 4-6, that's one of the 12 profiles. The profiles are kind of the movie character that we play in the movie of life. It's the way that our energy kind of naturally shows up, and it deeply influences the way that our movie plays out. If we want to go just like briefly into the pieces of the chart, you can see the profile is actually connected to our different crystals of consciousness. So human design is speaking to the fact that we are a binary consciousness, and our profiles actually correlate to our different the binary of our design and personality crystal. So that first number correlates with our personality crystal. So that is the side of, and that's what's highlighted in black in the charts. That is something that we're more likely to be more consciously aware of about ourselves, because these are the aspects of our energy that we can see more clearly through our personality crystal. Our design crystal is what's highlighted in red in the charts. And that's the second number within our profiles. So I kind of, it's interesting to kind of conceptualize like our personality crystal sits just above our scalp. Our design crystal sits in our third eye, in our ashna, in our mental awareness center. The design crystal is connected to the intelligence of our bio vehicle, and the personality crystal is here to be a witness of the movie that's being experienced because of the intelligence of the body and the way that it's moving through time and space, meeting the right people at the right time to create the movie that you're getting to experience. In human design, the process of experimenting with it and working with others within it is a process of fine-tuning your own acoustic frequency so that you can see what you're meant to see. So you can speak to different I'm not going to go over all 12 of the different profiles, but when the profiles, like the two numbers, the formula goes like this. So the fourth line is the opportunist, the sixth line is the role model so the 4-6, the keynotes are opportunist, role model. And so you can start building this understanding of the way that that person kind of functions, based on kind of like some of the keynotes of the numbers. And those are the things that you can find really easily online, is like seeing all of these different kind of keynotes of the way, like the first line tends to be the investigator who has the energy to like get to the bottom of things and to want to like research and investigate the things that are relevant to their life, and they have the energy to like understand, like want to have the foundation established, even though, because we live in an ever-changing world, the foundation is always kind of changing. So there can be this like insecurity within this need to kind of like find the foundations. So there's all sorts of different keynotes for the first line. And then the second line is the natural or the gifted. And these people are like these people are able to become what is needed in the moment based on the projection fields. So they're one of the lines of projection. I feel like I'm getting kind of into the weeds with this. I'm not sure. I want to check in. Like, should I keep going with all the lines or?
Um, I feel like those lines, that there's so much information we can go into about it and people can read about it, but I want to get into like the meat of like what like we were talking about discussing is like now that you know these pieces of yourself and how do you utilize it for the experiment, what you call the experiment of life, and utilize it to help you fine tune your operating system so that you flow with life versus have all these, I guess, resistance points.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah. Um, I love that question. So because part of the reason why I'm here with my passion to talk about this system is because I got my reading, and then I started experimenting. I started experimenting with strategy and authority. And in that process, my strategy and authority brought me to the specific experiences that I was meant to have to continue learning the system, because it's in alignment for me, for my personal destiny of like working with families and children. And that's like a thread that's been like throughout my life. So I love to bring that into awareness, because like this isn't a system that tells you like, oh, I know who you are. Like when I work with clients, it's not like, oh, like this is, I can see who you are in as a human. I don't know who, like the beauty of this language, of this system, is it gives you a foundation to start experimenting with how you see yourself and how you know that energy can kind of move through your life for you. And it does require a process called deconditioning. Um, so it's like the catharsis of letting go of the things that we've held in our psyches that have been conditioned based on the life that we have had, right? The family and the culture and like the experiences that we've had. Um, when those are all beautiful, neutral experiences or challenging, or, you know, it is life, right? But there's a surrender that happens as you experiment with strategy and authority, because your mind comes to see that it doesn't have to be the decision maker for your life. Like we live in a world that really conditions us to make decisions from our minds based on like different strategies that's going to be based on our conditioning and our undefined centers. And so actually experimenting with the system like is so powerful, because you start unraveling the pressures in your own head that you've consciously or unconsciously been holding against yourself, and yourself being like who you came to express. Because one of the things that I've experienced for myself personally and see as a pattern in general is that, you know, it can be scary to be like, it can feel scary or a lot or expansive in our nervous system to share our energy, right? To know that moment when the invitation is there and there's like, oh my gosh, the energy exchange is happening. There's actual movement and exchange in our nervous systems, and having like an understanding that of like what is actually mechanically happening and creating this energetic dynamic between our friends, family, people in general, like that can be very grounding and helpful for the mind to be able to surrender to the intelligence of the body. So I try not to get too far off the path of but yes, yeah, so experimenting is with this knowledge is where the actual juice is. It's not in learning, like maybe in your experiment you are called to learn deeply all the nuances of the different types and be able to see all the things, especially if you're a projector, because projectors are here to master systems, and if human design is a system that you feel called to master, you will have like there'll be a naturalness to it most likely for you. And but so the I'm kind of getting sidetracked. Oh,
No, it's okay. I think let's talk a little bit about, the deconditioning, because I know like as a projector myself, we live in a generator world because there's like 70%. So it's all about hustle, go, 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 and energy. And like my because I have no sacral motor, I can't work 24/7, or like hustle like everybody else. So I have to really learn how to operate in my system so that it can be more efficient. But the deconditioning is really hard to do sometimes when we're taught a certain way. So, how do you, I guess, recommend people to go through this deconditioning process and or navigate this deconditioning process? Where do people start with that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, one of the most powerful things in the deconditioning process, especially is having others who are also in their experimentation process that you can kind of speak to, because it can be like there's depending on where you're at like within the system, like there is this part of like this experience of kind of shattering that can happen, not in the process of certain aspects of self burn to the ashes so you can rise from the ashes, right? So there it's not it's the burning to the ashes that allows you to rise into yourself and into your freedom. But it's also like I do bring that in because it's not, oh, here's like it's just going to be life's going to be easy. Follow strategy and authority, and I'm going to be happy all the time. It's follow strategy and authority, and you'll wake up to the power of your own experience and your own life and the life that you're actually here to live instead of all the things that you think you need to do because of all the things that you've taken on from the world around you. And we've all done that. And that's what the map kind of helps us to see is the ways like our undefined centers help us to see the ways that we're more vulnerable or open to conditioning from the world, our family, and everything around us, the transits, like all of it. And those are the pieces that create the foundation for the thoughts in our minds that really pressure us. And so once you have this solid chart to experiment with for your own psyche, you start to see, oh, like this fear is coming from my undefined, my undefined spleen that's like trying to hold on to something that's no longer good for me because of the way that the energy works. When an undefined spleen gets their spleen defined, the inner like it feels really good. And it feels really safe and secure because like that's what the spleen's all about. It's that like safety and security. And so, but because of that dynamic, our minds can also hold on to things that feel really good but aren't actually good for us in the long run. And so that's where there can be like a shattering that is experienced in the sense that you no longer identify with that voice or that pressure to like hold on to something that also is not good for you. And so there's that like grief process of like letting go or whatever that shows up as. Me for me, there's been a lot of water has been a deep part of the journey as well. So a lot of times like an awareness will come through and then mucus will come out. Like I'll have to blow my nose or I'm crying or there's a lot of like getting the water, the old waters out of the body so that you can then continue forward in your reality, the life that is here right now, making decisions from your now moment based on your authority. Right. So I found this like really, it was really grounding in balancing this recognition of like, I didn't need to go backwards to try and figure out how to like fix or heal or change something, but I could trust that if there was something that I needed to address within my life or my psyche, life would bring it to my aura to respond to and like heal through in the now, in reality. And so it helps me to kind of let go of this like I need to keep fixing myself, which can come with 70% of us have undefined um, ego motors, which is our motor of willpower in our body. So 70% of us don't have a fixed center of willpower. And that undefined center gets conditioned by this world that's like, just do it, just go out and do it. Like, where's your motivation? Where's your will? And therefore our minds get so like pressured with this idea, this concept that I'm not enough. Like I need to prove or improve myself in order to prove that I'm enough in this world. And if you have an undefined ego, you're not here to prove yourself in that way. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to be accomplished and have things in your life that you're very proud of. It just means that you don't want to be forcing physical movement of your body from a mental thought process that's ultimately rooted in this I'm not enough kind of paradigm. And so the process of deconditioning is sitting with yourself long enough to see the root and pull it from the root. And then also trust the opportunity, like the change happens when your authority brings you the next opportunity to grow, that next thing that actually comes to your aura, strategy and authority, however that uniquely works for you. Your life is coming to you so that you can be yourself and not all the conditions that are no longer serving you.
I think that's such a important point, is that, you know, we have been taught a certain way and we have to really, and we're all unique and we're not supposed to do it like everybody else, like those motivation speakers, like do it my way because it worked for me and like all this stuff. And you follow the guru, you follow whoever, and then you're like, it doesn't work for me. I'm not like them. Why is it not happening? And then you feel like you're not good enough and all this, like this beliefs and stories. And human design is really here to say, wait, you're not supposed to be like them. You're supposed to be like you.
Mhm.
And so if you understand you and how you operate, like the manual, then you can move forward and pull out those weeds and those
Ex
pieces that are not you. So
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
I love that. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna add, like, which is why there's a binary within the language of like self energy versus not self energy. It's not a good and bad, right and wrong. It's just a way to differentiate between what is a fixed energy within you and consistently you throughout your whole life, and what is an energy that's being influenced by the people, places, and things around you.
Yes. Oh, it's like so deep. There's like I've been diving deep like in the fa past like year or so. I'm not nearly as far as where you are, but it's just like so fascinating to go deep in this. I would love to talk a little bit about um relationships because I think human design can also support like relationships and understanding. For example, I have an open emotional center, so I get taken on a ride with people who have fixed emotional centers. So can we talk a little bit about relationships and how to experiment in relationship to others?
Yes. So one of the things that's really cool about human design is you get your chart, you start getting familiar with it, and then you can start, you know, if you're called, I would suggest like collecting the information from people you spend a lot of time with or your family, different people, so that you can kind of get to see the mechanics and how they're playing out in their lives. Like there'll be things that just make sense. You're like, oh my gosh, you totally are this. And then the next thing is you can actually take two people's charts and bring them together in what's called a connection chart. And that's what's super cool about this system is that it's speaking to like 1 + 1 = 3, right? Like I bring myself, you bring yourself, and then our auras, our energy are communicating. And the way that we are when we're together is a different thing than the way we are when we're apart. And put a connection chart gives us something very physical to be able to see the patterns, the energetic, logical patterns that are playing out. So there's 4 different ways our auras can connect. They're called dominance, compromise, friendship channel, and electromagnetic. And depending on the way two charts come together and the number of different ways that they're being connected, that's going to provide the foundation for the way that the energy dynamic is playing out. And so I don't personally do partnership readings, but I work with people who do fantastic partnership readings. And what they can do is be able to like see the places where people are fighting, like in their relationship, because you can look at the compromise channels, and that's going to be there's an energetic dynamic that once you get educated as to what's playing out and how to actually like surrender to the limitation that like this is what's happening, there's like what tends to happen is just like this relief and this release. It's like no longer someone's fault, it's just an understanding of, oh, this is part of how our energies come together. And so that kind of can decondition our minds from certain beliefs that we've taken on about how we think relationships are meant to work and how we think energy dynamics are supposed to play out. um, yeah, does that answer the question?
Yes, it really does. I feel like that's like the beauty of human design because you understand yourself better, you understand others better, and like because your perspective is not their reality or their perspective as well too.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the aha that I've been getting through studying human design is that like my parents' motivation is through guilt. And I'm like, no wonder I kept on feeling guilty for
Mm,
not doing stuff. Is I'm like,
right.
I'm not making this up. It's there's like a certain aspects you're like, oh, no wonder like that person acts like that or I act like that. And like
Exactly.
having that understanding makes you more compassionate.
Yeah, and it like really like it just kind of like blew my mind with the way that I didn't even realize I was assuming other people were thinking or not even like thinking necessarily like words and stuff, but like functioning similar to me. Like it's like, oh, I can see how my mind before I got educated assumed that everyone had like a baseline that was similar to me. And then I start seeing people's charts and I'm like, oh, of course not. Like I knew everyone was different, but also similar. And that is the magic. But when we break it down into these like into the quantum mechanics, into the subatomics of what's happening, it's really, really beautiful to be able to see the ways that like because like the our body consciousness like is aware of these things, of the complexities and the differentiation between us, but our bodies aren't here to differentiate. It's our personality crystals that are here to be able to see uniquely, and we can only have a clear unique frequency if we've gone through the process of deconditioning from the conditions that we've received that are not true to our self any longer.
Oh my gosh, we can go so much more deeper. I know we're like almost out of time. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, there's like so many other questions. We have to bring you on for like part two or something because there's just like so much like richness in the system
Mhm.
and understanding it and a lot of depth, as you can see. Like we can't spend so much time going even on the foundational pieces. But I would love for you to share like how like if people want to go deeper, like how they can reach out to you, where they can find you, and all that stuff.
Sure. Yeah. So like easiest way is like reach out to me in the WhatsApp group for giraffes, fellow giraffes. And then you can also find me at my personal account, which is at the space to create. And I'll also drop my email in the description of the video as well. Um, but yeah, I really love to work with people one on one because everyone is unique and every person that I get to work with teaches me something new that then I get to then share with others. And it ultimately, like, this system is, it's for those of us who are here to awaken even more deeply to ourselves, and it's also for those of us who are here to be able to raise kids who are never separated from their inner power and their inner decision making process. And so, like, because it's really empowering to be able to have a quote unquote user manual for the way that your kids cognitive functioning is developing, and how to like practically apply that.
Yes, it's so important. I feel like so many more people need to understand human design is just bringing awareness to like the unseen, like the quantum you were saying, like the body
Exactly.
mechanics.
The
And
unseen, but the very much felt and
yeah,
experienced.
yes, for sure. Max says, so much wisdom, Molly, keep spreading the light. And
Mm.
thank you so much for being here. Thank you for everyone that has joined us on the fireside chat. This has been such a beautiful conversation, and I can't wait to do more fireside chats with you and others. And thank you, everyone.